You've just tuned in to the Byron Cage Show featuring Super Dave. Stay right here to watch topics that are relevant to today's issues and the opposites, which tackle subject matters from two different perspectives. Celebrity interviews, life-changing information from some of the leading health and medical professionals, and live performances. It's the Byron Cage Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Byron Cage Show with my main man, Super Dave. We are in the house to give you again some perspectives on things that are going on in our society that are important to our community and to our culture. And we have a very, very special guest in today. Trina Braxton is going to be talking to us all of the things that she's been doing for television and music. We can't wait to talk to her. So keep it locked right here. It's the Byron Cage Show.
Listen, to the Holy Lamb of God who sits upon the throne, you're sovereign, God, and we worship you, and we'll praise you alone. Hallelujah. Listen, you are the Lamb of God, the Lion of Judah, a mighty strong tower. You are an awesome wonder, in you we stand triumphant. We walk in victory. The power of your word. Thank you, Jesus. Listen. It's been life to me, my Redeemer. You are my defense. You are my way maker. You are Lord forever. You are my deliverer. Great Lord, you are. Sing it, y'all. You're the Lamb.
You are the Lamb of God.
I love this song. Come on, sing it. You're the praise, the Lion.
The Lion of Judah.
Come on, and your word declares you're a mighty strong tower.
A mighty strong tower.
Come on, come on, come on. Tell them, say, you are an awesome wonder.
You are an awesome wonder. In you we stand triumphant.
We stand triumphant. You said we walk in victory.
We walk in victory.
Thank you, God. Listen, and the power of your word.
The power of your word.
This is good news. Come on, it speaks life into my situation.
It speaks life to me.
Come on, sing it. My Redeemer.
You are
my defender.
You are
my way maker.
You are
Lord forever. You are my deliverer. Great deliverer.
Lord, you
come on, sing it.
My Redeemer.
That's what you are.
You are my defender.
Thank you, Jesus.
You are
my way maker. Come on, Lord forever.
Lord forever. You are my deliverer.
Come on, you're the great one.
Great deliverer.
Lord, you are. And your word declares that whatever we bind in the heaven will be bound on the earth. And whatsoever we loose in the heaven will be loose on the earth. So we take whatever we loose on earth, it shall be loosed in heaven.
Whatever we do, it shall be done. Whatever we loose on
it will be loosed in heaven.
It will be loosed in heaven.
Whatever we decree,
whatever we decree,
it shall
be
come
done.
on, say it. It shall be done.
It shall be done.
Whatever you believe in for the Lord, it will be done.
It shall be done.
Come on, if you need something, God, to open up the windows,
it shall be done.
Shower you down a blessing that you won't have room enough to receive.
It shall be done.
Come on, it shall be done.
It shall be done.
It shall be done.
It shall be done.
Come on, speak those things in the atmosphere.
It shall be done.
Lord, He will.
It shall be done.
Now I want to tell, come on, that is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we can ask you. I thank Jesus. Come on, sing it.
It shall be done.
We believe and do it for a night. Oh, come on, give Him glory today. Say it. My Redeemer,
You are
my defender,
You are
my way maker. Come on, tell Him. Lord forever. Say it. My deliverer, great deliverer.
great deliverer.
Lord, you morning, y'all. Welcome to the Byron K Show. Keep it right here. We're about to have a good time tonight.
Thank you and welcome back to the Byron K Show featuring Super Dave. Listen, y'all, this is a segment that we call the opposites because, you know, I'm light skinned, Super Dave's dark skinned.
Chocolate.
I'm 5'11", Super Dave is 7'2". You know what I'm saying?
6'8".
And our perspectives on a lot of topics, sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree. But I think today we probably are going to be on the same page because, Dave, I just want to talk about, man, everything that's happening right now in our society, especially on the news. You know, you get the CNN on one side, the Fox on the other, and based on who you listen to, most of all, you really form an opinion. But I cannot see for the life of me why we cannot come together on the whole race and race relations thing. You know, it's just total opposites. Their mindset of looking at an insurrection, for we talked about this before, you know, and then the other people look at it as it was a friendly tourists that were in town. It was other people that were causing trouble. And then we look at what's happening with our former president and all of the investigations and things that are being done for all of the wrongdoing. I mean, to throw toilet paper, not toilet paper, but documents down a toilet that causes plumbing to explode in the White House says that there's some serious issues. And what's amazing to me is if 44 had done half of what the last president done, they would have been impeached and tried to get him out of here. Would have called them all type of traitors and all that kind of things. And we've watched racism be fanned for so many years now that it felt like almost that we were back in the 60s and the early 70s, as if, you know, we were a people that don't matter. When we know Black Lives Matter, though a great movement, it was still an awakening for a generation of people that maybe didn't grow up during the times of civil rights. It didn't really know it beyond the history that they would read in the libraries. And then now that's another issue that's coming up now as well. You have the people who are wanting to take the CRT and get the books of slavery out, get the history of what that was, the atrocities of slavery, and all of those that were harmed, you know, in the rites of passage are coming from Africa, coming over here on slave ships. A lot of the people, obviously Africans, died in the process, didn't even make it. And for, I think, people to want us to forget that we were forcibly removed from a place and then brought to a country where we were enslaved and we were to be subservient and we were to be the slaves and they were to be the masters. And for us to want to decline that history and allow the children, your children's children, it wasn't that far gone. Your great-great-granddaddy lynched black people. They had slaves. I mean, even the Constitution, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, said all men were created equal. When Thomas Jefferson did that with the Constitution, he had no idea that I think in 2022, there would be so many prominent African-American people that are in politics, that are in business. Of course, we're very talented musically. We do sports. You used to do sports yourself. But we have to get to a place of honesty where we can really have courageous conversations and say, you know what? We need to always remember our history so we won't be destined to repeat it.
I don't think it's, for me, I don't think it's anything as far as curing racism. Like, I don't focus on that. I focus on the good people that support us as a part of our culture by, you know, the things they do, the way that they take it upon themselves to be a part of us in the right way. I'm not talking about these culture vultures who just take our style and make money off of it. I'm talking about the people who are really out there on the front line fighting with us, fellowshipping with us, at the barbecue with us. Like, I like to focus on those people. I don't think you can change somebody's mind that's like that. President 45, you know, he showed just the reality of our country. You know, I don't necessarily really blame him. He is who he is. Trump stood on who he was.
You don't blame him?
I can respect it.
But okay, wait a minute. You don't blame him, and you can respect the fact that he
understand my don't blame. I don't blame him from other people's actions.
Okay.
He was not puppeteering people with a physical ability. He only said things that made them believe in what they already thought, and they could act on it freely, and they did.
But do you believe that words have power?
100%.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
how
but
else would, because what, for instance, now let me interrupt you, but because you say that if for any reason he did not tell people to go down to the Capitol and do that.
none of that matters to me because we still were dealing with racism before he came along. You know, cops were still killing people by the minute.
But I'm specifically speaking about words, though, because his words of what he said, we're going to go down there and we're going to fight like hell and we're going to do this. We're going to take back our country.
Yeah, but like I said, he gave them a window to be themselves.
Okay, although if he had not said that,
It would have never happened.
it would have never happened. I guess
Yes.
that's the power. So death and life is in the power of your tongue, and the things that you speak, you know, you just have to be very cautious and aware of your words. That's what I'm
Right.
saying.
No, we gave the wrong person power at the wrong time, but at the same time, we need to look deeper into it and not so much be so raw on him because he is who he is. We keep trying to focus on the people who are who they are. That doesn't make any sense. They're not going to change. You're not going to change Trump. Trump won't be Trump. So why are we worried about Trump? Let's focus on these people that rallied with Trump all of a sudden, these people that are in the doctor's office or in our school systems. It was people on the board of education in 5 different states out there that got caught. And they're teaching black kids and kids of color and brown kids. So that's where I would like to put the attention instead of trying to change the racist person to be non-racist. When is that going to happen? They've been in charge of the law enforcement. They've been in charge of the government. They ain't going nowhere. They're not going to stop what they're doing. When have they? Since we've been here, when has it been cool? The red to yellow to green, we have more red in slavery. We have a yellow of when they started to pass bills where we're allowed to vote, actually walk the streets without being called out of our name, actually eat with them, fellowship with them. It's in the yellow. The green, it's about that small. Like we are just now getting okay. That's because we're becoming more forceful about what we should have as a human being. Like we were not being treated like human beings. From the Darwin theory, our own president had slave bones as his teeth, George Washington. The White House was built by slaves. They never acknowledged that. New York Park was a black community that was tore down and they built a park over it. Philly got bombed. Nobody talks about that. They shot at kids running out of Philly when they bombed Philly. There's so much stuff we can keep. George Floyd died. And tell me when police shootings have stopped. Tell them when they slowed down.
No, yeah, and it's
10
really
happened in the same place he got shot in the last, year?
Yeah,
So
it's insanity and the cycles of craziness that continues to, I think, perpetuate what you're talking about. How can we trust, I guess, is what I'm saying. How can we trust, I don't even want to just say the government. How can we trust a system that has been against us from the very beginning? Because to your point, because, you know, our forefathers all owned slaves, they obviously then did not mean that all men were created equal.
Yes.
That just meant all that white people are created equal. The rest of you guys, you know, you're just
the
below
people
us
of their
and beneath us.
approval, the 1%. We know the 1% exists.
Yeah, it
You know what I'm
absolutely
saying?
does.
So
And that's why what happened, we talked about this before, not on camera, but I marveled when I found out in December of 2019 that almost 400 CEOs of companies resigned their position because there was something that they knew. And then when you look at those who were billionaires during the pandemic,
became
trillionaires. There's some of the same names of those who were CEOs and that were doing, you know, whatever. They had the inside story that something was getting ready to come down the pipeline. And then fast forward 3 months later, we're in a pandemic. And, you know, businesses are struggling and everybody's in isolation and the unemployment rate is at an all-time high.
Absolutely.
And who's hurting? The average person hurting. I was hurting from a standpoint of all of my touring for my book and for my new album back in 2019 when it came out. 2020 shut it all down. And so the only people that seemed to really be winning, you know, if you still had a job during the time, were those who control the wealth and the finances of this country.
Who make the decisions, absolutely. And it's unfortunate that's way, but I would say never to trust the government. I mean, I don't mean like we should be rebellious against it. We should definitely try to do our best to be more implement in it as much as possible. Like there's some great governors out there. There's some great people that are trying to get within the system and do the right things. Like my man in Louisiana that's running for governor, who's an advocate for 420, I love him. There's a couple other people that's in the blend. But how can you trust a government that has never done anything like legit, like to say, yo, We owe y'all one, so here it is. We're gonna boost y'all up so y'all can get back right and go back out to. They did it for the Indians, which they should have because they massacred them terribly to take this land. So let's start there.
Especially to have a highway named after Indians in the D.C. area in Maryland, which is a long stretch that goes out toward Waldorf and all that. This is in.
But then they turn around, slap them in the face, and call the team Redskins.
Right, absolutely.
You know, so
right, and call the Redskins, and then another slap in the face by changing the name to the Commanders.
That was terrible.
and when you understand who the Commanders were in the incident, the Commanders were the ones who did the orders to make sure that the Indians were killed.
Things like that. See, I don't trust the government for one. All the presidents are related by blood. That's a fun fact. So for all you watching who might be going, yeah, right, check it out. They're all related by John King III, even up to Obama. Only like 3 presidents are not related to the rest of them. Well, 2.
Well, we'll have to visit that.
We'll
at another
visit that
time.
one day.
Yeah, because that's going to be more than just a 2-minute conversation.
It's
you know what
crazy, but you can look it up. You can Google it. You can find the information for yourself. Please do. We will talk about it another time. But other than that, as a black male, especially I was growing up in the 2000s. To me, that's when I was in the late 90s, 2000s. That's when gangster rap was kind of at its all-time peak. That's when they was pulling you over just for being in a car with 4 people or more. You know, so, and I'm from St. Louis. That's where Ferguson happened. So I was seeing racism as a kid. We used to run from the cops. Like now, granted, I had family members who were officers, and we trusted them, we loved them, but when they came around, you know, we knew them. And I think that's probably the biggest thing we miss. Our police officers back then used to be able to go, oh, that's Terry and Kathy kid. You know, they good, leave them alone. Or they knew the crackhead that was on, he don't mean no harm. He ain't gonna do nothing to nobody. Leave him alone, let him go and walk down the street. He ain't gonna, like, we used to have that type of law enforcement. We don't have that anymore. These dudes are coming from out of state. They don't know nobody. They just as scared on the streets as we are of them. So I think that's one of the biggest issues, but that's kind of hard to do because you just don't have police in neighborhoods no more, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems, man, it's almost inevitable, and I hate to say this, if racism continues to be at the forefront the way it is, because before it was back kind of hidden, but now the fans are flamed and people are out saying what they want to say. And social media obviously is a saving grace for people of color.
But really hidden win though. Like, that's why everybody keeps talking like we went through some period where racism was just gone.
Well, no, not that it wasn't gone, but what it was not, it wasn't at the forefront where
you had owners calling players Negroes or the N-word.
No, I'm talking about movements though. I'm talking about movements.
Oh, you mean like from the positive side? Oh, yeah.
Black Lives Matter movement happened because there was proof of things that were happening to us in our community, you know, with cell phones, you know, and
there was profit in proving what's happening in our communities. I'm sorry, like a lot of that stuff is just for profit and fame for some people. This stuff has been going on for years. You telling me we just now can get an understanding of what's been happening to us forever?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a lot of it now is documented, and a lot of it is also recorded. Like we all saw George Floyd. And we saw the officer on his knee, which, you know, incited a whole movement to come back again and say, we're not going to take this anymore. And the only way we can change it, I don't know that defunding the police is necessarily the answer. I think going through the proper training and that we do things to make sure that there's a level of respect. That when you pull me over, I'm not afraid for my life. And when you pull me over, you're not afraid for your life. And how do we get to that point? I think when we have again, courageous conversations, and we could sit back and make sense with one another and get over our prejudices about what we feel and what we think. At the end of the day, we're all human. We all get up in the morning. We want to live our life. Some may be bad. Others are great. But we all want to live our life and try to be the best that we can be. And I think the only way we can really do that is if we have these conversations.
But with the other side, though.
Right, absolutely, absolutely, and not look at, you know, white people as if somehow they're evil and, you know, black people are just all saints. No, we all have issues and idiosyncrasies, uprisings and downfalls. We all have the same thing. But I think how we respect one another is really how we could define who it is that we are, what our integral character is going to be about. You know, that when I come to my brother Dave, Dave knows I may not agree with everything you say, but there's a level of respect for you because you have something to offer. And we as a people of color, we have something to offer, and we continue to show that. That's why, you know, for the NFL not to give an opportunity for an African American to own a team, because, you know, Byron Allen, who used to be a talk show host, who's a billionaire now, he's trying to buy one of the NFL teams.
They won't let him, yeah.
And why? You know, because he's qualified, he has the things that they have, but the skin.
Well, there's a coach also going through the same problems within the NFL, and that's a whole nother subject to the NFL itself, because there's a lot you could say about the NFL and different entities within it. But, you know, I don't think we probably would want to really go there. I will say this, though. I agree with you with not defunding the police, because I talk to a lot of officers. I have quite a few officer friends. You know, I work with the community, and, you know, we do the youth programs and things like that. So I get to see it from different sides. I see the frustration in some police officers when they're on the street dealing with these kids. I see how these kids respond to police officers and, you know, things like that. I've been compliant to officers and been harassed to a point to where I didn't understand what was going on. It's just like, why are y'all so frustrated with me? I'm being compliant. I gave you my ID. I'm talking to you with respect, and I still got treated like a criminal for a traffic stop.
Right.
So I know it's something else there. So I don't believe in defunding the police, but we will have to do the hardest job ever of getting the good ones up top. Because right now the good ones ain't up top.
Well, there are some good ones that are up top. I just think that there are enough corruption.
The top.
Yeah, there's just so much corruption in a lot of the police departments where it's a fraternity of sorts, and they're going to be loyal to whatever the topic is, whatever we're supposed to be doing. But there are some absolutely good police officers out there who are absolutely doing their job, and so we applaud you for that. But we do though desire that we not be looked upon as being criminals.
Right away, yeah. Like as soon as you get the scene.
Absolutely.
How do you feel about the Darwin theory though? How did you feel? Because you know that wasn't that long ago. The Darwin theory, they really thought we were scientifically inferior to them.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know, unfortunately, because we came over on ships from another country and we were not allowed to educate ourselves. But I'll put somebody like a Frederick Douglass, who was, when he ran away as a slave and went up to the East, and then he stayed in the East and became a person's property while they tried to find him. And he talked about the atrocities of slavery and why the Constitution says we're supposed to have this. He was one of the catalysts for the motivation to achieve and to make sure that we do some great things of making aware to the people that all men should be created equal. And he filled an arena. They showed it on a Netflix show. I can't say the name of it, but they talk about Frederick Douglass and the things that he did and how white people would come and sit down and listen to him, this educated black man who was not supposed to be able to read because it was against the law, their law at the time. And he did exactly that and became one of the fathers of the faith, of racism and slavery and bringing awareness to it. So I'm really thoroughly convinced that if we know better, then we're going to do better. And if we chase after something beyond what people say that we can have or who we are, then the sky's the limit to what we can have.
So how do we beat so much hate from something that stems from just pure air? Because we didn't do anything. We didn't take over any land. We didn't fight anybody. We didn't kill anybody. We didn't do nothing. They just literally were just like, we can't stand you. Yeah. And so that's why I keep trying to go back, and I think in my mind, I'm like, we keep trying to end racism. It's nothing to end. They really just plainly, it's just a group of them within this culture that just don't like us. They have not liked us since we've been here, since they met us, since they got...
I don't have to be liked, though. I don't have to be liked.
Which is my point, though.
I have to be respected.
Which is my point, though.
And that's the point, that when you get to the point of disrespecting someone, that's the part of I think, racism that really gets on my nerves. I know there are going to be bigots out there.
Yeah,
I know there are going to be all kind of folks who don't particularly care for me.
Because Christopher Columbus, one of his letters went like this. You could look it up in pattern. It went like, yo, great people will give you anything in the world, love their energy, they're great people, happy people. They will make great slaves. It would be easy to take them over. There shouldn't be much of a, like, he went right into conquering them as he talked good about them and what they would do. It's crazy.
But there's always going to be somebody, Dave, on one side or the other, because you have some great white people who have chronicled and championed with us, you know, between civil rights, Black lives. You always see.
Yeah, I just think it's evil people. I don't necessarily, and when I talk about racism, I tell people all the time, I don't think it's every white person, and I don't hold every white person accountable. Like I don't want them to hold me accountable for every black person's choice. I don't. But I know majority of that exists. Trump showed me that. That's a lot of support for somebody who was igniting something that you just shouldn't stand behind. You know, I can see you standing behind a policy here or being a Republican and saying, I'm still a Republican. I don't fuck with that. Excuse me. I don't mess with that. You know, I can see you saying that and I can respect it. I can even you saying, you know, I don't rock with y'all in business, but you're cool. You know, like, you know, you have your reservations for anybody.
Right.
So that wouldn't really knock me. It's just, he showed where we really were at, where we've been at, where we're gonna probably be at for a long time because it's unwarranted. We have not literally done anything to these people to be at this point.
Yeah, but one good thing I think that we have made strides with, and the Super Bowl halftime show a few weeks ago, obviously was one of those moments. That was an amazing time where African Americans in the hip hop community, they finally allowed the NFL to bring rappers for the first time. Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar, Mary J. Blige, 50 Cent, Eminem, and when he took the knee at the end, they
told him not to, too. So I respect him for taking that knee.
I respect him for doing that, too, because what he did is he praised, in his own way, Colin Kaepernick for taking that stance originally. And he paid the ultimate sacrifice in not being able to play in the NFL anymore, but he became a major figure now in our mindset. And so that's what we want to do. We want to make change, and that's what this show is about. We want to be able to have dialogue and conversation that, again, Dave may not always agree with what I say. I may not always fully understand what he says, but at the end of the day, we learn to respect each other because this is called The Opposites. And it's the Byron K Show. Keep it right here. My girl is coming up next. Trina Braxton is next. She's a fireball, a lot of fun, and we're going to have a great time.
Yes, indeed.
So keep it locked right here. Byron Cage, my man, Super Dave.
Peace.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Byron K Show. Thanks, Dave, for that wonderful conversation about race, relationships, and how we can be better people, not just people, but Americans, and how we can love each other as Christ loved the church. And I'm just so excited. You know, one of my friends is here. She is an incredible singer in her own right. She was a host on Sister Circle, and I was on her show several times. She's from a very, very famous family called the Braxtons. Would you please, you all, welcome my sister Trina Braxton to the Byron K Show with Super Dave.
Hey.
What's up, Trina?
Yay me!
How you doing,
I am fantastic.
First of all, what about these boots here? Can you hold those up?
Oh, you like those?
I say Wendy would say shoe cam. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, but let's talk about your shoe cam.
Oh, you know what? Nick Cannon got it for me. Nick
Hello,
Cannon got it for me.
hello.
Nick Cannon got it for me, y'all. But it's all good. It's all good.
That's very yes. Your shoes are very yes.
I appreciate you. How you doing? How are you doing?
You know what? No cause to complain. What about yourself?
Man, we're doing good. Super Dave and I, we're just trying to hang out and do our thing.
Ain't much. Happy to see you.
I see your Prada. All right,
That's how they do it. That's how they do it.
Don't get nothing on you.
That's how they do it. Listen. How many sisters do you have? Let me see if I can name them all. Trina, Tony, Tracy, and there's some more T's.
Tamar.
Tawanda.
Tawanda. That's what I was about to say.
That's it?
Yeah.
You guys had like, man, what kind of life is that with five of y'all girls? How many bathrooms did y'all have? How many blow dryers did you have? How many curlers did you have to have? How many? Good.
Quite a few, but we did have 3 bathrooms.
Did you? Okay.
We did have 3 bathrooms.
And you all have no brothers?
One brother.
One brother.
One brother. He's a junior.
Older or younger?
He is right after Tony. So
Right
it's
after
Tony,
Tony.
Michael, Tracy, Tawanda, Trina, Tamar.
Oh my goodness. And what was life like with 6 siblings growing up? You guys had the Brady Bunch for real.
It was a lot of fun, actually. I couldn't imagine my life without any of them. So having a big family, I think that is the thing that just, made us who we are. You know what I mean? We were the church choir. We weren't a part of the choir. We were the choir.
Right.
And my brother, he has the most phenomenal voice out of all of us, I think.
Really?
Oh my gosh, his voice is so beautiful. He, and you hate to say someone sounds like someone because to me he sounds like Mikey, but he is very Nat King Cole-esque.
Oh wow.
Oh my gosh, he and Tony, they did a duet on the Christmas album. And if you heard his voice, you'd be like, oh my gosh, it's like butter. It's
Why didn't he
creamy.
pursue music like that?
Well, he is a nurse by trade, So he's been doing it since. Okay, I'm gonna tell my age. Fine. So, do you remember way back in the day when you had like go technical school, and they would send you, to learn a trade, blah blah blah. But so he did that ever since he was in high school. So he's been a nurse forever in 12 days.
That's cool. Wow. But now listen though, I was so mad at you all about 7 years ago, 7 years ago. We were in Los Angeles, California, at the BET Awards, and I was nominated for Gospel Album of the Year.
Congrats.
Mary was nominated. Kirk Franklin was nominated, and I think Tasha Cobb, some of that was nominated. And the only time that the nominees get the chance to have some camera time,
a little bit of shine,
camera time is. All they were supposed to do was say, and the nominees for Gospel Album of the Year are such and such. These girls got up there and said, amazing.
No, we
did y'all sing? What did you sing?
The Lord's Prayer.
Right. Yeah, they were, Our Father.
Yeah, it was good.
Who made the choice?
Listen, I was sitting over there like this. And then they said, and the winner is, completely took my moment.
I'm so sorry.
Trina, I never forgave y'all for that, but I forgive you now. No.
Well, thank you kindly.
Do you look away again, B?
It's all good.
Do you look away again?
But it sounded good, though.
No, y'all sounded amazing.
But it sounded
y'all
good.
Proved why
So
gospel
who made the
singers-
decision to do that? Who made the decision like, girl, we're going to go up there and blow it away?
Probably Tony, because, she is the second matriarch of the family. So, she thinks she's, Mama Tony.
Now tell the secret story that you said y'all was arguing in the back before y'all walked out.
We did.
What was y'all fighting about? Come on,
Well,
Braxton.
we were fighting about the fact that I was late.
Oh, okay.
Because I'd flown in that day. And they were a little upset with me.
Yeah. Now, how did you like living your life in front of the camera when you guys had your reality show before? I won't say what the name of it is, but I just will simply say, what is that kind of life to have cameras following you 24/7 and, drama unfolding? Because, when I saw Mary's thing, because I know them, I was just like, I wonder how they could, let that kind of personal space be so exposed on such a level like that for people to like pass judgment and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we were already in the limelight since we were, crawling. But people think that when you have a certain status in life or because you're part of a family with a famous last name that nothing touches you. But it couldn't be further from the truth. We are just regular people like everybody else. We go through the same problems as everyone else. And when we decided to do the show, we thought that maybe we could help other families and other people, and let them see that just like everyone else who bleeds red, so do we. We go through the same turmoils and the same trials and the same tribulations as everyone else. And sometimes, we don't reach a resolve. But at the end of the day, as long as there's breath in your body, there's always room for resolve.
Absolutely.
And we wanted to show that.
Absolutely. Now, would you have any regrets on the reality show? Was something that happened that made you say, I wish we couldn't have done this?
You dealt with some serious issues on there.
Well,
too.
yeah, regret is moot. We all know that. But when I had gotten my DUI, I showed it on the show. And I'm going to tell you guys a true story that actually happened. When I went to the police station, I had on a wig, and I'm so glad I didn't glue it down because the woman ripped my wig off. And she was like, that's not real. First of all, how do you know? But she ripped it off. So could you imagine if I had glue on there?
Was she a black lady?
She was not a black lady.
I was going to
she
say.
was not. But could you imagine had she ripped my scalp off?
Touch a black woman's hair. Listen.
But I was going through a horrible public divorce. And I was never a real drinker. But when that happened to me, that was my coping mechanism. And my coping mechanism. But just let everybody know that I'm not exempt. They're not exempt. I mean, some people turn to drugs. Some people turn to alcohol. Some people turn to different things. For my thing, my self-medication was drinking. But I still had to show people that when you're going through things, anybody is susceptible to turning to some kind of substance, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And the divorce was very public, and people felt like they had the right to the knowledge of it. They felt like they had the right to my life. They felt like they had the right to comment. And just because you put it out there does not mean you have the right to my life. I give you what I give you, but you don't have the right to assume for yourself. and you don't have, I mean, because you can comment because we put it out there because we
your
put it out
opinion,
there.
yeah.
We put it out there, but you don't have the right to all aspects of it.
And when you went through that very embarrassing, very public thing,
Golly jeepers.
did you ever have an opportunity to seek professional counseling, like from a psychiatrist, or just to process some of the stuff that you go through? Because people don't always want to be honest to say, I'm going through something. I'm hurt in this situation. Super Dave posted something a couple of weeks ago about the anniversary of his mom's passing. And he was just talking about, even to this day, I missed you so much, Mom. In his posting, I felt his heart, and I sent him a response message because we act like some way, somehow, our emotions aren't real. So how do you deal with it now when you because I know you're remarried, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But look at her face. You see her face? She's smiling when it said
She been talking about him already.
I have not.
So have you ever sought any type of professional counseling, whether from a pastor or for a psychologist, to help you to process some of the hurts and pains of the past?
Absolutely. I believe in therapy. You know, when you talk to your family and friends, they are so busy with their opinions. You know, if you make up with someone, or, you know, you continue a friendship with someone, they're still upset.
Yeah.
You know, so I try to limit myself with that kind of conversation with family and friends. I believe in talking to someone who's completely unbiased.
Exactly.
Who they don't have a horse in the race, except for your mental health. So I would rather talk to someone. When I leave, I not only release myself from that negative energy or whatever energy I possess at that time, but I also leave with a sense of renewness.
Yep.
And, you know, and I don't get it from a place of judgment, a place of biased opinion, but I get to leave with maybe a question that I need to reflect on until that next week or that next day, or how often I see them. I believe in therapy. And unfortunately, especially how I grew up in an African-American household, they had that whole covered wagon, you know, stigma.
Black
Oh,
people don't
whatever
go to therapy.
happens in this house stays in this house. You don't tell people what goes on in this house. You know, you don't talk about family business. Well, a therapist is a great way to do that.
Right.
Without it ending up in the streets.
And that's a good point to it, because some people don't understand how even being in a family, because they see some kids, they be like, oh, they got so many people around them, but they can still be lonely. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like, even what you were going through when you went to alcohol, you felt lonely in that
I
period.
did.
Yeah,
I
see,
did.
and people would think in their mind, oh, she got her sisters and daughter, she good, she wealthy. Nah, it has nothing to do with none of that stuff you're
Nothing.
talking about. That stuff is minute.
It is. And the ultimate thing, the person who I guess who was the poster child, unfortunately, of not having the right system behind him, of people saying no to him, was when Michael Jackson passed. Because he used to have drugs and stuff for him to wake up, and they used to give him drugs to go to sleep. And that very life of not having a sense of normalcy, that you feel like you could contribute something other than just your talent and your gift. I'm smart, I'm intellectual, I like to have great conversations and great dialogue.
Right.
But whenever you're at that level, those type of persons, you know, we look at the people we lost. We lost Whitney, you know, we lost Prince. So many people that we lost to drugs and different things like that, because those do become comfort for them.
Yes,
That's their blanket that they can put over and go to sleep at night. But I'm glad that you made it through that, because I know you've had, I think it's your third marriage now, right?
I am.
And
I'm the
talk
Elizabeth Taylor of the family.
you what you gonna say? You'll keep doing it till you get it right.
Yes.
Not the Elizabeth Taylor.
Talk about what happened in your first marriage, because you know I'm a divorcee as well.
Okay, well,
I'm single.
Single Dave, single Super Dave.
I might have someone for you, by the
Ladies,
way.
the number is 301. Okay. Here you go.
My first marriage, I was very young. I met him at 15.
Oh, wow.
Married him at 20. Had his babies. They're the only two children that I have. And we were too young to really get the full grasp of what marriage really was, you know, and we grew out of each other. When you're 15,
Yeah.
and by the way, I did not do the booty with him when I was 15. I made him wait 2 years.
17.
I just thought I'd put that out there. I mean, even though that's still young. I mean,
Statutes of limitations
but-
over
but-
there.
2 years until you
but he
fornicated.
was
Go ahead
the
now.
only person I'd ever been with. Cause I was young. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I wanted. You know what I mean? So from 15 to 24, I was with my first husband. So sometimes I wish I could get my pudding back, but I can't. Except for the 2 times I had my babies. I'll keep those.
Get your foot.
I knew I heard her right. Wait a minute. I knew I wasn't tripping. I was like, did she say get my pudding back? I was like, wait a minute, am I tripping?
On the Byron K show, I can do.
I thought I heard her right. I was like, did she say pudding?
I did. Pudding.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. I like that one.
Come on,
like,
pudding. Come on.
And I dated like maybe 2 guys in between my second husband.
husband, yeah.
So I met my second husband. I just turned 27, and we liked each other immensely. We got married. He raised my boys. Great dad to them. He never had any biological children of his own. Raised them. He wanted to adopt them. Bio dad said no. He didn't want the responsibility. However.
How dare he?
Well, I have nothing negative to say to or about him.
it.
Especially for my children's
Yeah,
sake.
absolutely.
And it's up to my sons to make whatever decisions they want to make.
Fathers, if you're not taking care of your children, you're a bum. Go ahead.
That part, but that's not for me to say.
Right.
But they've created their own opinions of him because it's not for me to say, oh, your dad is this, your dad. I've always been very careful about doing that. But my second he was an amazing guy. He had his faults. So did I. I didn't have very many of them, but I did.
No, not you.
Not I said that. But we ended up divorcing, but he was one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. And then very shortly after our divorce, I found out that he had cancer.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry for your loss,
stage
too.
4. Thank you, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. But when we finally found out, he was so far gone that maybe 6 weeks after we found out he had cancer, he passed away.
Wow.
Now, with a tragedy like that, did that kind of make you want to revert back to drinking?
I'm going to be honest and serious at the same time. I still enjoy a cocktail.
What's the difference in that?
Or 12, but it's right now it's out of enjoyment, not out of grief or some kind of
problem,
reason or
tragedy,
problem. It's not. Yeah, it's not tragic. It's out of I'm hanging out, I'm enjoying it, I'm with people I love,
like it should be. Yeah.
Things like that. So I haven't reverted back to it in that sense.
Yeah, for
no,
pain, yes.
thank God. But it was very difficult for me when he passed away. And he passed away in 2018. And I'd gotten so fat. That's when I turned to food. Food was my alcohol at that point.
Remember I mentioned that being one of those things?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Food was my friend. Food was my confidant. Food did things for me that nothing else could take the place of. It was very comforting. People talk about comfort foods.
It's not gonna judge you.
That's a very real thing. It's a very real thing. So I gained a good 40 pounds. Not 14, 40.
Right.
You look good now, so
Won't he do it?
Yeah, he will.
But I'm still, slowly getting back to where I was. So I'm still not all the way there. Because I still have another situation, another tragedy going on in my life with some family members with illness.
Sorry.
Food is still delicious. You know what I mean? But that's my go-to.
Yeah.
Food is my go-to.
Yeah, and if you don't really recognize what that is, and if you just take that and just hold it on the inside, it'll come out negative in another way.
Yes.
And there are so many people who always talk about having drinks and cocktails and stuff as far as being wrong, and especially if you're a believer, you're not supposed to be that. We always joke about the first miracle that Jesus wrought in the New Testament was when he turned water to wine. So wine has alcohol in it, I do believe. There's certain people that probably
Jesus likes to
think
party.
I'm being irresponsible. No, I'm just saying that that's one of the scriptures in the Bible. And
Yes, absolutely.
a lot of times I think we minor in things that aren't really major, and we major in things that are really minor. And I can't condemn you for anything that you do. I can love you and be there for you and offer whatever resources I can do. And that's what I want to do. I never want to judge anybody. I know Super Dave very well, and he said it on one of the other shows. He's a tree man. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, God grew weed and I smoked it. My God liked the party. He made water in the wine. Yes, he did. That's a natural plant, sir.
Yeah, but God made you who you are.
100%.
You understand what I'm saying? And it's not for anyone else to judge. And then, and all these super Christians with the capes on, but God also said, judge not, lest ye be judged. So before you take, that speck out of my eye, take that beam out of yours. If you want to talk about quoting scriptures, we can talk all day long.
I pay them no mind. I do.
Neither do I.
No, I go by work. It's about the work you put into the people that's around you and the youth that's under us. I do my work. Like the way I live is the way I live, but I do my part.
And it's about a lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's about a lifestyle. And that's one thing that I really pride myself, that I'm thankful for, that this is my life as a believer. And I love living my life. And I love, speaking to all people. I may not agree with everything that you say or everything that you do, but at the end of the day, we got to live our life.
I am who I am.
Absolutely. Speaking of living our life, living your best life, talk about your current husband. Every time you say his name, you start giggling.
Look how she's glowing.
She licking her lips and batting her eyelashes real fast. Come on now, Trina. What's that?
His name is Vaughn, and he's a pretty amazing guy. Our children are actually the same age. So
y'all got Brady Bunch thing going on.
We do. So
nice.
together we have 5 sons.
Nice.
So he is a phenomenal guy, and I'm going to tell you why. I mean, there are so many different levels. He is very present in his sons' lives, number one, and you have to appreciate that first and foremost. And he was there for me when my second husband passed away. And even though my second husband and I were divorced, at first he was like, I'm not going to be a shoulder for you to cry on over another man. But guess where he was?
Right there.
He was right there.
That's what love will make you do.
He was right there. He was that shoulder. He was that chest. He was that ear. He, was just an amazing man. And a lot of men wouldn't do that. But he did. He was my comfort. I didn't have to go to food. I didn't have to go to alcohol. I could go to him.
Right.
He's just a really good dude.
Right.
And he and I have so much in common.
Right.
Our backgrounds are just a lot in common. And a lot of people used to get on me because it was like, oh my God, Trina, you don't date black men, blah, 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 blah. But he is a black man. And he's an amazing black man.
I got one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Would you be the woman would you be the same woman when you met your first husband for this man, or did the woman build up to be what she needed to be for this guy right now? You get what I'm saying?
I would go with the latter.
The latter.
Well, at first I wasn't a woman. I was a girl.
I get it.
I was a kid. Yeah, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I desired. And even then at 15, we were already touring. We were, seeing the world and all that kind of good stuff. But he was still, my first husband we're talking about, but he was still stuck in regular life. And I hate to say it that way, but when you're seeing the world, when you're going to Venezuela, you're going to, Egypt, you're going to, all these different places, and you're only 15, 16, 20 years old.
Right.
You don't really have anything in common. Because you're still growing, you're still trying to figure out what you want in the world, you're still trying to figure out what you want in life. And we were born, bred, and buttered to do what we did, growing up, since we were crawling. Our life was already, our steps were already ordered for us.
Right. Gotcha.
And he was still figuring it out.
Wow. Well, listen, in the last 60 seconds we have for the segment, tell us what you're working on now. What's featured? What you doing now, Trina?
I have a few more shows that I'm working on that I created and executive produced.
Oh, good.
It's pretty amazing. So you'll be seeing that here in 2022. It's very, 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 very exciting. Especially to put my own thumbprint on something. We've been in radio, music, television for a very, very long time, but to put your own stamp on your own show, it's a new baby. It's a new baby. And I'm reopening the restaurant.
Oh, good.
I'm reopening Bar Chicks.
Where's it going to be at?
It's going to be in East Point, Georgia.
Okay.
It wasn't Duluth. Now it's going to be in East Point.
Great. That's fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
well, listen, Trina, thank you so much for stopping
appreciate
by.
it. It's been awesome.
It was a pleasure. You are hilarious.
Great time.
It's a wonderful time. We're so glad. You guys keep it like right here on the Byron K Show.
In this chapter, the same word for mouth is the same word for door. So the writer is saying, if you open your mouth, God will open your door. Open mouths, people of God, equal open doors. Now turn to your neighbor, close to you, and say, neighbor, if you open your mouth, God will open your door. And that's why you've got to praise him like you're crazy. Put me in F.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Byron K Show, featuring my main man, Super Dave. And thank you, Trina Braxton, for being here with us today with your crazy self. Listen, we had such a great time talking, learned new information. I want you guys to tune in every week at Thursday at 9 p.m. for this great topics of discussion, great music, great entertainers. And you'll always have a good time right here on the Byron K Show.
Absolutely.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Which art in heaven, hallowed will be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. On earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory
Thank you for watching The Byron Cage Show, filmed by 21